And there's my notes. April 19th, 1775, about 5 o'clock in the morning. On the Lexington Green, Captain Parker was in formation with his traveling band. That's what the militia was called at the time. They were in formation because the British had moved regular forces out of Boston with the intent to confiscate firearms that were supposedly being built up by the rebels. They moved out of Boston. Of course, we know the story with that, with William Dawes and Paul Revere moving through and going through the countryside. Obviously, they didn't say the British were coming. Everybody was British. But they said the regulars were coming. Now, the regulars were coming to confiscate those firearms. So, on that morning, Major Pitcairn was on his horse. They met with the militia that was on the Lexington Green. They met gun to gun. They did not yield. He came up on a horse and he said, "Disperse, ye rebels, disperse." At that point, a shot was fired. We know this is a shot heard around the world. Now, we fought a war with the British because from that moment on, we were Americans. We fought a war for independence and we won, eventually. About 1780, 1783, we started writing the Constitution. First, we set up the Articles of Confederation, which failed. That was our first government. They failed. So they sat down at the end of the 1780s and wrote the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution was written without a Bill of Rights. The reason why is that everything that's covered in the Bill of Rights is covered in the Constitution. Proper. States have the police power. But before the states would ratify the Constitution of the United States, they demanded a Bill of Rights. The first, freedom of speech. The second, Second Amendment, is very simple. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of the state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What I'm talking about today is simply, what does that sentence mean? We all have our ideas of what it means. We see it on the media all the time. There is millions and millions of dollars being spent either to get rid of, modify, or to protect the Second Amendment every day. So, we're going to go into what it means. A well-regulated militia. Who is the militia? Now I'm going to read to you from Title 10 of the United States Code. Section 311 states, the militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males, at least 17 years of age, and, except for provided in sections 313 of Title 32, under 45 years of age, who are, or who have made the declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States, and female citizens of the United States who are members of the National Guard. The classes of militia are the organized militia, which consists of the National Guard and naval militia, and the unorganized militia, which consists of the members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or naval militia. Now, the first part of this, a well-regulated militia, what does that mean? That is not regulations of what they carry. That is not regulations of the state telling them what kind of firearms are available. Well regulated at the time of the writing of the United States Constitution meant train and discipline. We didn't have sheriffs everywhere. What we had was traveling bands or militias that were charged to protect or take care of themselves. If you had somebody that was mentally unstable, it was in charge of the militia to ensure that he did not have a firearm. They were also part of the controlling of the state. Okay, they were the people that they went to when there was a problem. If there was somebody doing some sort of piracy or something like that, they went to the militia and the militia took care of it. They took care of all that internal. We're in the Army here, so we understand Uniform Code of Military Justice. This is what well-regulated means. Now, We had just fought a war with the British to secure our independence. This war was fought mainly with militias. They were state militias. It was the militia of New York was fighting. Massachusetts, the 13 colonies all had individual state militias. Now, the Constitution is written as all police powers are covered by the state, which means this state is responsible. The militia is responsible for the security of that state. And that's what this means right here. Okay? They put that in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in the Second Amendment to ensure that that capability is always possible to follow on with the parts of the Constitution that cover that. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. Now the Supreme Court has declared that people in the Constitution, throughout the Constitution, not in the Second Amendment, throughout the Constitution, when it says people, it is defined as this: the aggregate of individuals who comprise a state or nation. We can take from that every eligible voter is part of the people. There is no question in this. There is precedent, and it is the way the Constitution is written, that the people have the right to bear arms. Shall not be infringed also has very specific meanings in legal terms. We hear lawsuits being put out of copyright infringement. That is fairly serious. If you're being charged with copyright infringement, you've got a large legal course. So infringement is defined by Merriam-Webster as to do something that does not obey or follow a rule, law, etc., or to wrongly limit or restrict something, such as another person's rights. So as this sentence is here, put together, it is very specific on what it says. Now, what I've done is I put together in modern words that I'm going to read to you as well, if the Second Amendment was written today, what it would mean, what it would say. A well-trained and disciplined force consisting of all male citizens 17 to 45 years old, females in the National Guard, responsible for the security of his or her state, the right of citizens eligible to vote, to own, maintain, and operate in public and in private spaces, shall not wrongly be limited or restricted. If more people understood this definition, we wouldn't have the issues going on in the media, we wouldn't have the issues going on in Congress, we wouldn't be having these discussions without conducting a constitutional convention. To change the Second Amendment requires a 2/3 vote in Congress and ratification throughout the states. This was done on purpose. This was done by the Founding Fathers to ensure that the Second Amendment, or any of the amendments for that matter, cannot be changed by the emotional whims or common sense of the mob rule. Thank you very much.